Elle. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about names. Names can be really useful for DID treatment, and so I thought that it would be a good opportunity right now because my name is really heavily on my mind. Before I get into that, I just want to say that I think names would be the number one thing that I would want for clinicians like nurses and therapists who maybe don't work specifically with DID to understand. I'd want them to understand that names are important in the treatment for DID and that calling us all by our individual names can actually be really helpful. At least that's been our experience. We split recently. It was due to a trauma that occurred. The result was that our previous host personality broke into two personalities, myself, Elle, and Cameron. In that process, our DID went from what you would call covert DID, where there is a primary host personality, and all the other personalities tend to, when they are out, pretend to be that personality or act like that personality in order to remain hidden. And we went from that to an overt system. That is one where we have two host personalities that are very different, and we really struggle to act like each other. So despite being twins, we are very different from one another. And I actually formed with a name. The vast majority of the alters in our system formed without names. We have an alter named Damien. He chose his name. Cecilia chose her name. She goes by Cecil. And then we have a couple alters who did not choose their names. This includes Nadia and Nina. Nina is a fictive from Full Metal Alchemist. Nadia is a fictive from a play that we worked on when we were in high school. The play was called Archipelago. And additionally, I formed with a name. The name that I formed with was not Elle, it was actually Cam. K-A-M, Cam. The reason I formed with this name, unlike the others, I'm not a fictive. I formed with this name because it is an online persona that we have used for a long time. This persona comes from our first OC, whose name was Kameru, very weeby, but we eventually shortened that to Cam for, everyday use online, I guess. Like, we signed our art Cam for a while, and so I formed off of that persona. Cameron, on the other hand, formed without a name. So you might be wondering, why did Cameron pick a name that starts with Cam? And the answer is actually that he's a dork. And I'll explain. So he wanted us to be Cameron and Cameron, with my spelling being Kamryn and his spelling being Cameron. Because we're twins, he wanted that. As it goes, things didn't really go that way. I decided to switch the name that I'm using. I ended up switching my name over to Elle because I wanted something closer to the body's name. I wanted to be able to say my name to people who had awareness of what the body's name was without having to explain or go into detail about, why maybe I use a name that isn't coinciding with the body. But the internal debate that I'm having right now with my name is that I don't fully identify with the name Elle. I think the name Elle sounds really nice to me, and I feel like it fits my personality. I feel like an Elle is going to be someone who's sort of docile and sweet, and I think that that's an apt description of me. And it sounds right when it comes from my friends' mouths, but to me it sounds weird, because in my head there's still this thing of, my name isn't Elle, it's Cam. And I'm still actively having the debate with myself right now about whether I will stick with using L or whether I will switch and start using Cam. I'll keep you guys updated. But this gets into why names can be useful for people with DID. Names can be useful because for alters who don't identify with the body's name, there's always going to be that pitter-patter of, oh, but that's not my name. And names tend to be triggers. So when you have someone with DID and you call them by a name that isn't their own, it can put them into a place of dissociation. It's a lot easier for, Cameron to be out if someone is saying, hey, Cameron. It's a lot harder if someone were to say, hey, Elle, because it pulls you back and it starts a chain of depersonalization where you go, that name you called me isn't my name. And then from there you look down at yourself and you're like, and this body I'm in isn't my body. And then you back up and you're like, and now I'm just watching this body and I can't make any of my decisions and this isn't me, and dissociation, nebulous, gunky, slow talking, all that jazz. And that whole chain of mushy dissociated ickiness can be avoided if alters are able to be called by the names they identify with. Another reason why names are good is that it can reduce confusion within the system. Our specific experience has been that the biggest help in reducing memory loss is getting to know one another, knowing what our roles are, so then you can tell, if you can backtrack to what the trigger was, then you can know who was out at that time. Additionally, names help you in that process by helping you to organize all the different alters by their personalities. Names are also just nice to have sometimes because it can take DID from being the scary, like, oh my god, I just found out I have DID and I'm scared and what are these alters? And it can make it a lot more personable for the patient, especially if the host is a personality who's been around for a long time without knowing about the others. So that is when names can be beneficial. But now I want to talk a little bit about when names can be detrimental. Names can be detrimental for a person with DID if their goal in the long run is to fuse all of the personalities together. For those whose goal it is to fuse the personalities together, I have heard before that it can be helpful to have everyone called by the body's name. The reason for that is because, again, when we talk about all that dissociated mess of like, that's not my name, the goal would be for each alter to, in their own right, slowly move towards being like, okay, regardless of what I want to think here, that is my name. And then if everyone in the system is actively saying, that is my name, it would help to eventually get everybody cohesive and on the same page, so that then once the integration has occurred and all of the memory has been pieced together, then the fusion can occur and the actual identity states can be put back together into one overall personality. So I hope that this was informative about our experience, and I hope you can relate. I want to start like a thing on here. Hey, Ben, sorry, my cat's eating a cord. Stop it. I want to start a thing on here where in the comments down below, especially if you're my friend, I'm going to hunt you down and make you do this, put one coping mechanism that you used today and how it helped you. All right, thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Bye!